Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, dig in, and pull out the key insights for you.
Giving you that shortcut to, well, getting informed on interesting topics.
Exactly. And today, we're looking at The Art of Connection. We've got excerpts and the table of contents from Stan Holden's book, Giving Candy to Strangers. Our mission here is really to unpack his ideas on building relationships. And it's interesting because he comes at it from like an artist's perspective, right? Someone who found success in business later on.
Yeah, that's what's really compelling, I think. Holden's background.
Yeah.
He wasn't, your typical suit.
Right.
He started in design, worked with huge companies, Disney, Apple,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Wow.
So he brings this really creative viewpoint to business, especially sales, which he got into after, well, an economic downturn forced a change.
Okay, and that background leads to the core idea of the book, this giving candy to strangers thing.
Precisely. And it's a metaphor, obviously, not actual candy.
Right, not handing out sweets on the street.
Although the generosity behind it is key. The candy is more like your time, your attention, maybe a helpful idea.
Something you offer freely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With no immediate agenda.
Yeah.
It's about starting with, what can I offer? Instead of, what's in it for me?
That feels pretty different from a lot of business advice. Very refreshing, actually.
It really is.
It is.
He's all about the value of the connection itself, first and foremost.
Okay, so let's get into it. How does he structure this? Part one is about creating connections without an agenda. That alone is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's first principle is #1 play in the sandbox. What's that about?
It's basically about trying to get back that childlike openness we lose as adults.
Okay.
You know how kids just meet and play? No baggage, just curiosity. Holden says we should try to consciously adopt that mindset.
Like pretend everyone's already a friend.
Sort of, yeah. It
Yeah.
lowers your own guard, makes you smile more, seem more approachable. He quotes someone, Leitendor, about seeing a crowd as a sea to swim in, not drown in.
Changing the whole mental framing.
Exactly. Less fear, more possibility.
Okay, so you start with that open mindset. Then comes something really practical. #2, name names. Why is remembering names so crucial for him?
Well, think about it. When someone remembers your name, especially if you just met,
Yeah,
it makes an impact, right?
definitely. You feel seen, kind of.
Exactly. Keith Ferrazzi says something similar. It shows you cared enough to pay attention. It's a small thing, but it's powerful. It's a piece of that candy.
But it's hard. He even calls it who's its disease.
Ha! Yeah, he acknowledges it's a common struggle. We all do it.
So why is it so hard, does he say?
He touches on how our brains work. We tend to be more visual, apparently. And names? Well, they're often abstract. They don't easily create a picture in your head like, say, someone's job might.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, how do we fight who's its disease? What are the tricks?
He gives a few practical ones. Repetition is key. Say the name back when you first hear it. Maybe use it again soon after.
Simple enough.
And then association, linking the name to something memorable. Visuals work well. Like his examples. Brian the Lion, Bill the Dollar Bill, Sue the Attorney. You create a little mental hook.
Okay.
He tells a story about remembering Mark Victor Hansen's wife's name, Crystal,
Oh,
by picturing a crystal glass with a smudge, like a mark on it. Mark, Crystal.
clever. Okay, those are things you can actually try. So, moving on. Chapter 3 is #3 always be opening. How does that differ from just being initially curious?
It's about keeping that openness going beyond just the first meeting, like being constantly receptive to possibilities, not shutting down avenues because they don't fit your immediate goal.
So, less focused on a specific outcome.
Yeah. He uses Disney's idea of passive listening, just being generally aware, picking up on things, potential connections, even when you're not actively looking.
Trusting that something good might come from just being open.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Trusting that the candy you put out there, that openness, it'll come back somehow, maybe in unexpected ways. It's a longer game.
Interesting. Okay, next is #4 make an old friend. This one sounds a bit unusual, connecting with older people in nursing homes.
Right? And he reframes it. Instead of seeing it as, maybe sad or difficult, he sees it as tapping into a huge resource of wisdom and stories. He suggests that these interactions can offer really unique perspectives. And if you feel awkward about approaching someone,
Yeah.
he says, just be honest. Say you're reading a book about connecting. You'd love to hear their stories. Authenticity goes a long way.
That's a really positive way to think about it. Okay, shifting gears slightly. #5 get your ducks in a flow. This sounds like it's about action.
Totally. It's tackling procrastination head on. That feeling of needing everything perfect before you start Analysis paralysis, he calls it.
Or ducks in a row syndrome. I know that feeling.
We all do. His advice is simple. Just start. Take some action, any action. He uses the analogy of pushing a stalled car.
Right. The hardest part is getting it moving initially.
Exactly. Once you have momentum, it's easier. So in
Yeah.
terms of connecting, it means just reach out, don't overthink it.
Action over perfection. Got it. Then chapter 6, hashtag 6, know your why. How does purpose tie into making connections?
Your why is your motivation, your driving force. Without it, efforts can fizzle out.
Makes sense.
He tells a funny story about his grandma making him eat every single pea,
Okay.
contrasted with his cousin, Bill Burke, climbing Mount Everest in terrible conditions. Why? Because Burke had this incredibly strong personal why.
So the strength of your purpose fuels your perseverance in climbing and in connecting.
That's it. It gives you the grit to keep going, makes your interactions more genuine too.
Okay, that's powerful. Next, hashtag 7, expect failure.
This feels related to taking action.
Very related. Holden basically says, look, if you're interacting with humans, trying new things, failure is just part of the deal. It's inevitable.
Not something to beat yourself up about.
Not at all. He uses a dart throwing analogy. You miss a lot before you hit the bullseye. Or think about squirrels dropping acorns. They don't sit there sulking. They just go get another one.
Huh. I like that image.
And he throws in some fun facts about famous failures. Mark Cuban's early struggles, Colonel Sanders getting rejected constantly. Right, reminding us that setbacks are normal even for the super successful.
Precisely. It's about normalizing rejection so it doesn't paralyze you.
Good perspective. Okay, wrapping up part 1, we have hashtag play by the 2 rules, which sound contradictory.
They do. Rule 1, there are no rules. Rule 2, there are many rules.
Okay, how does that work?
It's about balance, really. Encouraging you to question the standard ways of doing things. Find your own authentic style for connecting.
But also
be aware of, basic social norms and context. Don't be oblivious. He tells this amazing story about Colonel Gail Halverson.
the candy bomber.
Yes, in post-WWII Berlin, he broke the rule, started dropping candy from his plane for the kids. It wasn't protocol at all.
But it had a huge impact.
Huge. It led to Operation Little Vittles. It's a perfect example of breaking the rules out of generosity and creating something wonderful. A great tie-in to the book's theme.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. So that's creating connections. Part 2 then shifts to nurturing the relationships you already have.
Exactly. Because those existing connections are gold, or silver, as he puts it. They need tending.
So chapter 9, hashtag be friendful. There's an I Love Lucy reference.
Yeah, the Friends of the Friendless episode. It's a funny way to make the point that we often have more connections, more potential friends than we think. The main idea is don't get so caught up making new connections that you neglect the ones you have. He even mentions International Friendship Day.
As a reminder.
Yeah, but really saying make every day Friendship Day. Keep those connections warm.
Good point. Okay, then a very practical one. Hashtag 10, track your tribe. What's involved there?
It's about literally knowing where your people are. In today's world, friends scatter. He suggests using maps, apps, whatever works for you, to just visualize your network geographically.
Why?
It helps you be more intentional. He mentions his own rule. When traveling, try to see one old friend and make one new one. Knowing where people are makes that possible.
Okay, proactive. I like that. Okay, hashtag 11, play Rolodex roulette. Rolodex, that takes me back. What's the idea for, now?
Yeah, the physical Rolodex is history. But the concept is solid. Just randomly reach out to someone in your existing network.
Like no specific reason.
Pretty much. Just to say hi, reconnect personally. Not an ask, just a check-in. Maybe share something interesting you found, a little piece of candy.
Like a link or an article.
Yeah, something they might like. It keeps the connection alive in a low-pressure way.
Nice. Okay, chapter 12, hashtag 12, make contagious connections. This sounds like the 6 degrees idea.
Exactly. It taps into that 6 degrees of separation concept. Remember the Kevin Bacon game?
Of course.
Holden shares a story about finding out a business contact was actually his cousin's small world. It's about realizing how interconnected we often are.
And maybe leveraging that.
Yeah, exploring those potential links.
Yeah.
He even mentions Kevin Bacon's charity site, 6degrees.org, which uses that very principle for good.
Cool. Okay, last one in the section. Hashtag 14, don't let your friends grow up to be strangers. That sounds kind of sad.
It's poignant, right? It's about the effort needed to maintain friendships long term. Life happens, people change. He mentions being at a funeral and realizing he wished he'd connected more often. He uses a Lewis Carroll quote, too, about how we change over time.
And a story about a clown?
Yeah, his friend Tim the Clown. highlighting the difference between just performing, like acrobatics, and truly connecting with the audience, like comedy. It's about staying genuinely engaged with people as you both evolve.
That requires real effort.
Mm.
Okay, powerful stuff. Part 3 then tackles the roadblocks, the things that stop us from connecting.
Right, because it's not always easy. There are internal fears, external challenges.
Like in chapter 17, hashtag 17 invite people to laugh at you,
Yeah,
using self-deprecating humor.
yeah, as a strategy, a bit of self-deprecation can really break the ice, make you seem more human, less intimidating.
But don't overdo it.
Definitely not. You don't want to undermine yourself completely. It's about finding that balance where it builds rapport, shows you don't take yourself too seriously.
Got it. Then hashtag 18, sell your story. Why is storytelling so important for connection?
Stories are how we relate to each other. Sharing your own experiences authentically. It lets people see who you are, what you value. It builds trust much faster than just stating facts.
No, like, and trust that old marketing idea.
Exactly. Holden tells about dropping his notes during a talk and just speaking from the heart, boom, instant connection. He says good stories need conflict and resolution and encourages you to practice telling yours.
Makes sense. Our stories are us, in a way. Okay, chapter 20 gets into fear. Hashtag 20 write your own rejection letter.
That sounds intense.
It's a clever psychological trick, actually. Fear of rejection is huge for most people, right? It's wired in.
Totally.
So the exercise is write down your worst fears about being rejected. Get it all out. By confronting it, putting it on paper, it often loses some of its power over you.
Kind of like facing the monster under the bed.
Exactly. And then he lists all these famous people, Stephen King, Disney, Dr. Seuss, who got rejected like crazy before they made it, and normalizes it. That is comforting. It makes rejection feel less personal. Okay, and then hashtag 22, do what's right when no one is looking. How does character fit in?
It's fundamental. Real, lasting connections are built on trust. And trust comes from character, from integrity.
People sense it.
Holden thinks so. He jokes about babies and dogs being good judges of character. But seriously, he talks about intuition, that gut feeling about someone. It comes from observing consistency, honesty, doing the right thing, even when it doesn't benefit you directly.
So who you are matters just as much as what you do to connect.
Absolutely. It's the foundation.
Okay. Part 4 then shifts to understanding the strangers themselves.
Yeah, moving from just initiating contact to actually trying to get the other person a bit better.
First up, hashtag 23, don't judge a cook by his brother. Avoiding stereotypes, basically.
Exactly. Don't make snap judgments based on looks, associations, anything superficial. He briefly mentions a personality system, BANK.
Is that important?
The specific system isn't detailed, but the idea is people have different core values and communication styles. Being aware of that helps. Observe clues, clothing, body language, but stay open. Don't pigeonhole people.
Right. Keep an open mind, which leads into hashtag 24, be unassuming.
Yeah, reinforcing that point. He tells a story about his grandfather becoming friends with Humphrey Bogart.
The actor?
Yeah, even though Bogart looked kind of rough when they first met, assumptions just block opportunities.
You never know who you're talking to. Okay, chapter 25 is crucial. Hashtag 25, look, learn, and listen. We're bad listeners, aren't we?
Statistically, yeah. He cites a low average listening efficiency, like 25%. We hear, but we don't always listen.
That's the difference.
Listening involves understanding the verbal and nonverbal messages, paying full attention. He gives an example of observing someone at a car wash and learning a lot just by watching.
So active listening means?
Things like really focusing, maybe mentally repeating what they say, using encouraging body language, eye contact, asking good questions, showing empathy. He says great leaders, great salespeople, they're always great listeners.
Listening as a form of candy makes sense. Okay, hashtag 26, when in Rome, talk to strangers. This seems to be about culture.
Right. Using an anecdote from a travel show, he points out that what's normal for interacting with strangers in one place might be totally weird somewhere else.
So be culturally aware.
Yeah, context matters. Pay attention to local norms.
Good advice. Then a fun one, hashtag 27, practice the care and feeding of celebrities. What's the point here?
The point is, they're just people. He shares stories about leading Olivia Newton-John, Hugh Jackman, just treating them normally.
Like anyone else, yeah?
Yeah, and another story about an Air Force One crew member talking straight with JFK. It's about respect for everyone, regardless of status. Don't be starstruck. Don't be dismissive. Just be human.
Treat everyone like a person. Got it. Chapter 29. Hashtag 29, be nice to the gatekeepers. Who are gatekeepers?
Receptionists, assistants, service staff, anyone who controls access or provides support. It extends the waiter rule. You know how someone treats waitstaff tells you a lot.
Ah, right.
Holden says your true character shows in these interactions. Plus, Gatekeepers often have more influence than you think. Being genuinely nice is just
Ah, right.
and smart.
Kindness counts.
Yeah.
Always.
Hmm.
Okay, last in this part, hashtag 30 squeak your wheel.
No.
Meaning.
Meaning, don't be afraid to ask. He tells a story about a guy, Eric Sanchez, who got a private Kenny Loggins concert.
No.
He just asked. The point is, don't assume powerful or famous people are unreachable. Sometimes the only thing stopping you is not asking.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, basically.
Exactly. Don't self-reject.
Okay, empowering stuff. Part 5 moves into using humor.
Yeah, humor is a tool for connection, to disarm, build trust.
Do you have to be funny?
No, not like a stand-up comic. It's more about being lighthearted, maybe a bit provocative. He calls it breaking the ice. Not being rude, but just unexpected.
Okay, so chapter 31 is hashtag 31, get in your discomfort zone. How does discomfort relate to humor and connection?
Well, laughter itself is good for us, right? Reduces stress hormones, boosts connection hormones. But getting to the laughter often means stepping outside your comfort zone.
Trying something new, maybe looking a bit silly.
Exactly. He defines comfort zones as just artificial mental boundaries. He shares a funny story about joining line dancing at an RV park. It's about embracing vulnerability. A little bit of good stress or optimal anxiety can actually push us to connect better.
So lean into the awkwardness sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. It can lead to great things.
Okay. Then hashtag 32, break the ice, gives actual examples.
Yeah, practical ways to inject humor. Starting simple, just making funny observations. He talks about commenting on paint drawing, using joke fishing cards.
Fishing cards.
Little cards with funny lines to hand out. He also talks about asking strangers to help with harmless pranks and gives sample lines for elevators, bus stops, supermarkets.
Little icebreakers to make people smile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Little moments of shared amusement.
But then, chapter 33, hashtag 33, go full velocity, has a warning.
Yeah, a cautionary tale about asking a guy carrying a huge load of sticks for the time.
Didn't go well.
Apparently not. The point is, timing and context are everything with humor. Read the room. Don't just blunder in.
Good reminder. Use humor wisely.
Yeah.
Okay. And hashtag 36, play up your title on business cards.
Yeah, make your title interesting. Instead of just sales manager, maybe something like chief relationship builder or his example, freelance human.
Why?
It makes your card memorable, starts a conversation immediately, stops it from just going in a pocket and being forgotten.
Clever. Okay, part 6 moves into trickier territory, cold calling and other atrocities.
Yeah, acknowledging that sometimes there's a business agenda.
Right.
But the idea is if you're regularly giving candy, the payoffs will come even here.
So how does he approach cold calling in hashtag 37, do mix pleasure with business?
He reframes it. It's still about building relationships just with the sales intention. He challenges the idea you should only do work you love. He talks about joy versus happiness. Happiness is external, maybe fleeting. Joy is internal, something you bring to the situation. If you bring joy even to cold calling, you create more positive interactions and opportunities.
Find the joy in the task, basically.
Yeah. Bring a positive relational energy to it.
Then hashtag 38, if you're trying to sell, say so. Be upfront.
Absolutely. Transparency builds trust. He tells a great story about getting a wrong number, being honest about trying to sell something, but then genuinely helping the person.
And it led to a sale.
It did, because he was honest and helpful first.
Wow. Which ties into hashtag 39, never write off a wrong number.
Exactly. That story is the perfect example. You never know where an opportunity might come from if you're open and genuine.
Serendipity again. Okay, hashtag 40, kiss more toads. It's like persistence. Yeah, it's acknowledging cold calling is often a numbers game. You'll face rejection, lots of it.
Prepare for hang-ups. Definitely. Preparation helps. That's coming up.
Yeah.
But you have to be resilient. Kiss a lot of toads before you find your prince, so to speak. He includes a pretty out-there anecdote about a phone call taken on the toilet.
Yikes. Okay, point taken. Be persistent, expect rejection. What about hashtag 41, go people watching? How does that help cold calling?
It's about understanding nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
Body language, personal space. He mentions how social distance norms vary culturally.
Right, like the close talker from Seinfeld.
Exactly. Being aware of these cues helps you read situations better, even on the phone sometimes, by listening to tone, pauses, etc.
Paying attention to the subtle signals. And finally, for cold calling, hashtag 32, do your homework, preparation.
Crucial. Know who you're calling, what their business is, what challenges they might face. Research matters.
And your own attitude.
Equally important. Believe in what you're offering. Have genuine confidence, not fake hype, but real belief in your value. Maybe even use personal slogans to pump yourself up.
So research plus the right mindset. Okay. Part 7 shifts to social media.
Right, applying these principles online.
Right.
Social media changed everything, didn't it?
Big time. So hashtag 43, give virtual candy. What's that?
Sharing relevant stuff online, interesting articles, funny videos, useful links. E-candy, he calls it.
But tailored to the person.
Ideally, yeah. Things you know they would appreciate based on their interests. Shows you're thinking of them, know them. You can do it spontaneously or make it a regular practice.
A simple way to nurture connections online. Okay, hashtag 44 Facebook it. How should we use Facebook for this?
He sees Facebook as mainly personal. So balance is key if you mix business and personal. Maybe even have separate accounts.
And use it for e-candy.
Yeah, you can post things on people's walls, tag them.
But be sensitive, make sure it's appropriate for their timeline.
Yeah.
He also jokes about stalking friends in a good way, just keeping up with their lives.
Using it to stay genuinely informed about your network. What about hashtag 45 LinkedIn to LinkedIn? That's the professional zone, great for tracking business contacts as they move jobs, finding people you've lost touch with. It's like your living resume.
Can you still use humor there?
He thinks so, within reason, of course. A witty profile or comment can still stand out professionally.
Okay, using each platform strategically. That brings us to the final part, part 8. Leveraging your relationships.
Yeah, how all this connection building can create even more value, often mutually.
Like in hashtag 47, become a matchmaker, connecting others.
Exactly. Introducing people in your network who you think could benefit each other. Creates goodwill, strengthens your own position as a helpful connector.
Win-win situations.
Totally. He talks about Adam Rifkin, a big Silicon Valley networker, known for making valuable introductions. The key is thoughtfulness. Connect people based on shared values or needs, and maybe follow up.
Being a connector. Nice. Then hashtag 48, create win-wins. Looking for mutual benefit.
Always. Even giving candy to a stranger can be a win-win. They get a small gift, you might feel less anxious. It's about thinking collaboratively, not just transactionally. He mentions the pay-it-forward movement.
That spirit of shared benefit. Okay. Hashtag 50, be an opportunity maker. How's that different?
It builds on mutuality, creating that sense of us. He references Kerr Anderson's work, and Aristotle the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Celebrating.
Yeah, fostering collaboration.
Yeah.
And he tells this really moving story about connecting with a police officer, Peter Church, after sending him a postcard, candy.
Yeah.
And it led to this amazing friendship and business partnership. Just shows the incredible, unexpected opportunities that can spring from a simple act of generous connection.
Wow. That really brings it home. And the book wraps up with hashtag 52, make a new friend, which has kind of been the theme all along.
Right. It's a continuous journey, always open to new connections.
So wrapping up our deep dive into giving candy to strangers, the big takeaway seems to be, well, this shift in mindset, doesn't it?
Absolutely, moving away from what can I get towards what can I give. Approaching people, interactions with generosity and openness first.
And the idea that this can genuinely enrich your life, personally and professionally, in ways you might not even expect.
And it's practical. Holden gives you so many concrete things to try. It's not just philosophy, it's actionable advice. Step out of your comfort zone, experiment.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe a final thought for you listening. What connections might you be missing out on right now? What little piece of candy, a compliment, a listening ear, an interesting article could you offer someone today?
And what surprising gifts might come back your way if you do? It's worth exploring Holden's book more if this sparked your interest. That heart-centered approach. It's powerful.